Free Talk Live. Welcome to the live Sunday edition of the show. As always, you're invited to join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Like freedom, that's 855-450-3733. We've also got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm, so feel free to hop into one of those, and then you'll sound almost like you're sitting in the studio with us, and that us is me, Ian.
Richie Rich.
And Mark.
Starting out with a prostitution update, and it was funny, we just so happened to come across this topic last night, and then I found this story from The Morning Call. This is Lehigh Valley, which I believe is Pennsylvania, New Jersey. That's where Lehigh Valley is. Anyway, it's all about Backpage.com being gone, but being replaced.
Of course.
By another, what they call more graphic website.
Sure.
So for listeners who are unfamiliar, do the two of you remember anything about Backpage.com?
It's a website for hookers.
It was.
Yeah. Okay.
It had more than that, though. That's what it was famous for and what it got shut down for.
Okay.
But it was an alternative to Craigslist and had similar categories as normal Craigslist, along with the hooker section.
But when Craigslist stopped having hookers,
that's where all the hookers went.
Continued it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, Backpage was intended to be, it's in the name, right? So, like, remember magazines back in the day? There were, or like local news, there's certain, like, weekly papers where they would have, on, like, near the back page, there would be, like, these classified ads, which is where you would find services like that.
Yes.
So that's kind of where that, in my opinion, that's where the name Backpage comes from. It's an acknowledgement in the title of the website that this is a place where you can find adult services.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to dispute that, but they did have other categories.
Oh, yeah,
it just wasn't
totally.
popular.
Totally.
Yeah, I went on the Silk Road. They had
so did the other original back pages.
Yes.
Like, there could be other things. So you might see a garage sale there now every now and then, but generally no.
I went on the Tor network to go to the original Silk Road to see what it was like, and they had some like shawls, handmade shawls, and like handmade bags, and
they had books,
lots of things that you could get there that weren't illegal drugs and guns, but that's what people were known for. That's what they were.
Well, Silk Road didn't have guns, but
they
Silk
did
Road
at one point.
No, they did not.
Oh, was it the Armory then? That
they
had
launched a site called the Armory, which failed.
I went and looked
Never
at that.
Went anywhere. Yeah. Silk Road, for listeners that don't know, is the world's first underground drug marketplace, which, as you point out, did have other categories of things, but that's
underground free
for.
Marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, the creator of that Silk Road has been put in prison for 2 life sentences plus 40 years for basically creating a website, which is crazy, but that's the world that we live in. One of the other topics we discussed last week was this idea that website operators are being more and more held liable for the posts of the people who are on their websites, which is one of the reasons why Craigslist stopped accepting the not ads for prostitution, but personals ads, because there was this legislation at the federal level within the last year, and I'm sorry I don't remember what it was called, but it basically said that if you have more than a couple, basically three or something like that, 3 to 5 or prostitution-related advertisements, which is, again, a personals ad that uses code words, would qualify as one of these things. If this is found on your site, you'll be held criminally liable for it. So Craigslist was just like, well, we just don't need the personal section anymore.
And I'm sure you're going to get into it on this article. However, this one is not run in the United States, so they're hoping
this new site.
Yeah.
Okay. So last week, the story here from the Morning Call at mcall.com. An Allentown Vice detective responded to an online ad featuring 2 young, practically naked women. Through the ad posted under the name Bella, the detective arranged a sexual encounter at an Allentown motel for $300 for a half hour.
Right, people can't get work in Allentown, so the cops have to go busting people.
When a woman showed up at the March 28th sting, the detective promptly arrested her. His 7th bust in a month. A few days later, he made his 8th arrest in a similar online sting. This doesn't seem like luck to me. I mean, he's pretty good at it.
Yeah.
These women want to meet for money, and who knows what they're saying in the emails that they're having with this guy. But ladies, guys, you shouldn't be exchanging prices over text or email. If you want to be kept safe, I would think, from these potential busts.
Well, it's hard to even use the term safe and talk about prostitution. Okay, so I've never participated. I don't really understand, but
we used to have a guy on our show who was a professional escort. Sadly, he's leaving New Hampshire.
6'3" and jacked.
Yeah,
right? Like
he's handsome.
Right. He's he doesn't have the same problems that a 5'4", 125-pound female prostitute's going to have, and I can't even imagine what that's like.
You're talking about a potentially violent John? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, okay. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, okay.
So, safe is a difficult term to use.
Yeah, I mean safe from arrest.
Yeah, I was thinking from the John perspective.
So, how do you even discuss this? How do you even discuss what's going to happen?
Well, they have, as I understand it, if Rich were here, he would know, the other Rich, Rich Paul. He seems to know a lot about kind of the code words and such that are utilized. He was telling me last night that apparently the half-hour length is generally considered not like full sex, and the full sex is considered the full hour purchase, basically. So without getting into any more graphic detail than that. So anyway, his 7th bust in a month. Those are just a few of the busts that local authorities say highlight a sudden surge in prostitution-related activity in the Lehigh Valley, almost all attributed to a new website that has picked up where controversial site Backpage.com left off when it was shut down a year ago. Now, let's be clear. The activity isn't new. It just happens to be available now on this website, so now it's easy for the cops to bust people. So when you took away Backpage, prostitution didn't go away. The Johns didn't go away. The women who are willing to sell those services, or men, didn't go away. Yeah. It's just now there's a new central location where they can advertise. So, of course, the number of busts goes up, which says there's more prostitution activity than there was previously. I would suggest that there, in point of fact, was still prostitution.
And I think as we get into it, this website makes it a lot easier. Only because
than Backpage?
Easier, yeah, because Backpage, there was like a pretense of this is not actual prostitution. This is an escort service. You go out on a date.
This looks exactly like prostitution from here when I'm looking at the page.
Backpage or this new one?
Backpage is gone.
Oh, I don't know anything about Backpage.
This new one is definitely more open about the prostitution.
It's called Skip the Games. Yeah. There's pictures. There's also like a list of the things the girls are willing to do.
Yes.
On their pages.
And
many of which we probably can't say on the air. But anyway, the site's called Skip the Games. It's been described by local police and prosecutors as a more graphic and in-your-face version of Backpage, which authorities say had fueled a surge in prostitution in the area since 2010. After Backpage, again, no, it was making it easier for you to bust them. After Backpage was shut down by federal authorities last April, the Lehigh Valley witnessed a noticeable decrease in prostitution arrests. Allentown, where the majority of busts happened, reported a 39% decrease in arrests for prostitution and commercialized vice in 2018. But as the authorities expected, the decrease didn't last long. Quote, initially, when the government shut those websites down, we really didn't do anything for a little while, said the regional police sergeant.
No, that's just because people want to do this. There's ultimately really nothing wrong with this.
Of course not.
If you, you can pay money. You can pay people money to do things. You can have sex with whomever will allow you to have sex with them.
Mm-hmm.
And, why those two things can't be combined is beyond me. I'm not recommending this activity.
It's risky.
I don't think it's a good idea, but that's...
So jumping out of airplanes.
People do all kinds of things that I don't recommend in life. And honestly, one of the worst aspects of this is that it's illegal.
Absolutely. That actually makes it more dangerous because the women can't get testing regularly like they would in a market.
Right. And you'd want that in a market. You'd be able to go to a place, find somebody who would fit your description, and they'd have nailed to the wall their health certificate.
On a side note, I don't think the article is going to get into it, but I do think that the current hookup culture, as far as dating and relationships go, plays a part into increases in prostitution.
Really? I want to know why you're saying that. Coming up here, we'll get into that. Plus, your calls and thoughts are welcome. More on this website, Skip the Games. Police are cracking down at least in Lehigh Valley, probably in other places as well. That's just where this particular story came from. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Your thoughts on legalizing prostitution or whatever you want on Free Talk. It's Free Talk Live. You can dial in. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Here tonight, it's Ian,
Richie Rich,
and Mark.
Also, I want to let you know about Bitcoin.com, your premier source for everything Bitcoin-related. It's a very extensive and exhaustive almost website with a lot of features, and a lot of it's for free. They can help you choose your Bitcoin wallet, buy Bitcoin, and show you where you can spend your Bitcoin. You can read the latest news or engage with the community on their Bitcoin forum and so much more over at Bitcoin.com. Once again, that's Bitcoin.com. As we continue here, we've been discussing the news about a new website that is apparently it's making headlines, at least in the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania, for prostitution. Lots of busts have been fueled by this new site, Skip the Games. This is now sort of the new Backpage.
New and improved.
It used to be very popular. It's been taken down by the federal government, and now this new site has
venereal disease faster.
Well, who knows? Maybe some of these girls test themselves. I don't know what
it's
level.
Probably a good idea, but
level of quality.
Well,
there is.
In an unregulated market, you're going to see some problems.
No doubt about it.
This is black market stuff here.
Well, I mean, even in an unregulated, I think as libertarians, we don't want government regulation in marketplaces, but that doesn't mean that the markets will be more dangerous, because generally the market has a desire to satisfy its customers. And in this case, satisfying a customer would also mean not passing a disease to that person. And so the market would have its own mechanism of self-regulation, if you will, or like certification, for instance.
And buyer beware.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So Richie, you had said right before we went to break there that you feel like hookup culture is driving more people towards prostitution. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what were you kind of getting at?
I'm going to lay out a chain of events that in my mind leads to this.
And what's the difference between hookup culture and people 20, 30 years ago having one-night stands at bars?
It's become easier because of the internet.
Okay.
So hookup culture is a thing.
I believe
for younger people, supposedly. That's what I understand.
Supposedly. I mean, I can't imagine that somehow you get on your phone, you swipe right or swipe left or whatever the heck you do, and then a few hours later you're I don't know, doing it in somebody's house. I just can't imagine that's the case. But hey, don't listen to me, kids. I'm old.
So before I got married, I was definitely a part of it.
All right.
Okay.
So,
all right.
What do you know then?
that it can be that easy.
All right.
So
I've heard that 20% of guys get 80% of the attention on Tinder. Is that the right name? Yeah, Tinder. And
Tinder's
that 80% therefore are splitting that 20%.
I believe it. So I never really used Tinder because that kind of happened a little bit later.
Okay.
But I've been on the old dating sites like Plenty of Fish.
Okay.
And OkCupid.
OkCupid. Okay.
Yeah. And that was like my dating pool for quite a while.
There is an option on OkCupid for people who are looking for hookups. That's right. That's an option there. So there's like long-term, short-term dating hookups.
You never want to check that box though, because it's a pretense. Right, I don't know how many times I've heard, when I was in that culture, like, oh my God, I don't really do this. Like, of course you do. We all do. There's a pretense that carries over, that you pretend like you're not doing what you think you're doing, and then you end up doing it.
So wait, people are pretending they're not doing hookup culture, but they are doing hookup culture?
In my experience, yes. They'll say short-term relationship, long-term relationship, but then they will have sex on the first date.
Okay, so there's a date. So what, Mark, you were envisioning was that somebody's just going over to somebody's house and they're banging. But what you're saying is
I would also call that a first date. Like that also happens.
Okay. I don't know if you can call that a date. Can you? Can you call it a date if you go right over to the person's house and have sex with them?
So okay,
so at one point.
Here's the weird conversation that ironically I had with my wife last night. Again, prior to being with her, like I was in this. And prior to getting in this culture...
Was she in it as well?
No.
No.
Not as far as I know.
She your same age, roughly?
Yeah, but a little older than me. But between long-term relationships, I was like involuntarily celibate for like 4.5 years. And I say involuntarily because I really wasn't trying. I wasn't actively, attempting to date. And then,
you weren't mad about it like the incels, though.
I was not mad about it.
Right, that term was going to get thrown around here in just a second.
So okay, and here's the other funny thing about that, right? Like, I would be flirtatious, and then I would wonder why. Like, why am I not getting any attention? Like, why is it not working out? And then I'd walk by a mirror, and I'm like, oh, that's exactly why. Because I had, long hair and a shaggy beard, and I took care of my hygiene. I just grew all my hair out. And ironically enough, my buddy goes, dude, shave your beard and you'll get chicks. And I shaved the beard. And? Within a week, had a date.
Wow.
And the first thing she says, like, oh, why'd you shave your beard? I'm like, son of a, Anyway, so back to my original point.
I got a lot of attention when I had my beard. Okay. But, all right.
Long hair, too, though. A lot of women don't like long hair.
It's like evil Jesus. But the original point I was making was the ease of access to sex online has in my opinion, right? This is completely my opinion, has commoditized sex within the dating realm. So from a guy's perspective, right, and from my perspective while dating, sex was an expectation, right? If we there was a lot of flirtation online, there was a lot of sexting going on before meeting face to face, and there's a lot of like sexual tension built up by the time that face to face happens. So whether we go out to dinner or to a movie or just back to the apartment, right? Whatever, there was an expectation.
And then would that be the last time you'd see that girl, or would she just go in your little black book kind of thing, and then you could hook up later? Like, how often do the hookup culture people re-hook up with the same person?
From my perspective, as often as possible.
So then is that a casual...
You go back to the well as often as you can.
Does that... Well, okay, so I've also heard of this term called casual relationship.
Sure.
Does that become a casual relationship after the first hookup, or...
I've had a few casual relationships as well, meaning I had other sexual partners, she had other sexual partners, and when it worked out between us, we would have sex together. I would consider those casual.
Yeah, I had an instance where I was dating two young women, and things occurred with one, physical things occurred with one, and I told the other, hey, I really can't see you anymore. And she was sort of shocked that I would suggest that, that this couldn't occur, that, hey, sorry, I'm over here doing something physical on this side, therefore, we're not going to be going out any longer. Now, I had not done anything physical with her, and she sort of acted cheated, I guess is probably the best way to describe the conversation I had with her. So
she was shocked that a man would say no. Basically.
Any conversation I'm having with you occurred before 2003 or something. So,
hookup culture wasn't a term back then, but that's not to say people weren't, having casual relationships.
People had sex prior to marriage at that time, yeah.
Right. So
how does this tie into driving more prostitution if sex is more available?
So from the guy's perspective, there's an expectation for sex, which means in my opinion, from the female perspective, sex becomes a commodity. And what the females have learned in my estimation is that if sex is going to be expected, they need to get something out of it rather than just sex themselves. And now they're in a position where they can charge for sex because they know that's what the guy wants. And it becomes a transactional relationship.
Okay, more coming up here. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. We got more on this new website replacing Backpage, and it's coming up on Free Talk Live.
Bitcoin.com is delighted to announce their latest partnership with the gift card specialists at eGifter. With many of the world's leading brands on their roster, it is now easier than ever to get the gift cards of your favorite brands with Bitcoin Cash. To get started, just follow these simple steps. Visit giftcards.bitcoin.com, pick the gift card you want, follow the instructions on your screen, and make your payment using your Bitcoin Cash wallet. Sit tight and your gift card will be delivered to you as soon as it's ready. That's giftcards.bitcoin.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and the live Sunday edition here. You can join us. We're talking about relationships, the casual relationships, hookup culture, prostitution. That's what led us into this whole conversation, is a newish website called Skip the Games. Not an advertiser, but maybe we should call him, Mark. Anyway, mcall.com, the Morning Call in the Lehigh Valley, is reporting on a cop who has been cracking down. He's been responding to advertisements on this new website, has busted at least 8 women within a 1-month time frame. Really teaching them a lesson about being an entrepreneur in this world and
single moms,
trying to make it. on their own. So we're going to go on with more from the story. Your calls and thoughts are welcome if you want to add into the discussion. Maybe you've got some experience as a prostitute or a John, and you want to talk about this or whatever aspect of this world that not a lot of people know a whole lot about. 855-450-FREE. That's our number here. And by the way, Liberty.menu. I don't know if they have any restrictions on the types of ads that you can place on Liberty.menu, but if you were
I bet they don't know either.
If you were to go there, you might be able to put your services up. And maybe if you're a digital content creator or you've got an event that you're promoting, you would want to be listed there if you're an individual who rejects the initiation of force and agrees to abide by the ethics of the non-aggression principle. It's a site for libertarians and voluntarists and liberty-loving anarchists to put their voluntarist ideas into action. You can use code FTL, like Free Talk Live, get a special listener badge on your profile over at Liberty.menu. It's a great way to let people in the Liberty community know about what you do, and there's no limit. You can just put stuff up there for free over at Liberty.menu. As we continue here, besides the 8 Allentown arrests from February 27th that began as online investigations on Skip the Games, police in Northampton County said an investigation on the website led to a prostitution sting at a Hanover Township hotel that netted 8 arrests, including one man charged with promoting prostitution for posting ads. Skip the Games portrays itself as a sort of dating site. Quote, the premier place online for consenting adults to find each other and have fun with each other, unquote, according to its description.
Right, absolutely. Anybody, if somebody wanted to create a site where people could get together and have casual sex, that's completely legal. It's when money begins changing hands
that's correct.
That it's a problem. And
you found a girl on the site, Mark, not because you were looking for real, but just because
I was looking at the site and I was stunned by the post.
She's it says 30.00 car head. Now we won't say what that means, but
you figure it out.
Is she talking about 30? 30 what? It could be anything, right? She didn't put a dollar sign in front of it, so who knows what the 30 could be.
It's definitely skirting whatever rules are in place.
But
we all know what it means.
Whatever 30 is, it's denominated down to the hundredth of whatever of a whole.
Could be 30 minutes. Who knows?
No, that's not how you designate minutes. Minutes are done with a colon.
Right. So the name suggests the slogan, the slogan is, quote, skip the games, get satisfaction, unquote. The website is only about the sale of sex, said the senior district attorney in Lehigh Value, Robert Schaff. A real fun-loving guy.
Yeah, right.
Personal ads are posted to the site every day, showing mostly women, many of them posing provocatively while naked or scantily clad.
Yes, that's happening.
Besides the photos, each ad provides brief physical description, a list of sexual acts they consent to, and contact information, while being careful not to mention money. Schaff says, quote, it makes Backpage look more innocuous. It's very pornographic and in your face. Well,
it may not talk
you have
about
to choose.
money.
Hold on. You have to choose to go to the website.
Sure.
So to call a website in your face, I think is pretty ridiculous. Sorry, you were saying.
Right. Oh, they don't talk. They try to skirt the talking about money, but there's definitely a line item for payment methods accepted.
That's true. But if you're paying someone for an hour of their time,
sure,
then
right. It does
that's
say
not
escorts.
right. That's not prostitution.
Understood.
Yeah.
Right. You can pay somebody to come to your house and hang out.
That's been the loophole forever.
Yeah. And in this case, it's interesting because at the same time, they also show a list of the things they're willing to do.
Yeah.
So
for free.
Perhaps
if you pay for their
during
time.
an hour of their time.
Yeah.
Right? So you know what you're getting into as far as this person will not do X, they will do Y, and so people that are looking for specific things can find that in advance. That way there's no question when they get there about what's possible. There's not as much negotiating, that whatever awkwardness might go on there where people are, wanting to talk about the things that they're looking for but can't, do that legally.
Pardon my ignorance, and certainly I'm ignorant about this. How can it be prostitution if sex doesn't occur? Like, how can you be charged?
It's the deal. It's cutting the deal. That's what they get you for. That's what's illegal.
I can cutting a deal. Talking.
Yes,
is
that's
illegal.
what's illegal. That's why they don't wait until you stick it in.
Right. I know.
The cops would like to, though, because then they get,
They do in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Right.
Why apparently that was a thing.
What you're talking about is the undercover cops are. It's okay apparently, for at least it was. I don't know if they've changed. I don't know if
they changed it either.
To have sex with a prostitute before they arrest them, but in the other states that generally.
And they fought very, very hard to get that to stay on the books.
It did, yes. It was.
How else could we possibly arrest them?
Right.
That's my question is here. So striking the deal isn't what is illegal, Ian.
But that is what's illegal.
No, it's showing up after having struck the deal. Is that because that's when they're arresting them? And I just don't understand. How can you arrest me for prostitution?
Well, they could go to you and arrest you, but it's easier when you come to them. So you make a deal for prostitution. Most of the time, the classic example before there was an internet was person to person, right? Like, you pick the girl up on the side of the road, there's some interchange, and then there's a deal made. Boom, you get arrested then.
Money's on the dresser.
In the case of an online deal, if you've made a deal and they can prove it was you, then they could go to you and arrest you. But part of proving it was you is waiting for you to show up.
Okay.
So when you show up, you're now the guy who was online. They have now confirmed that. Oh, are you Mark? They might ask you while you're coming up, and you'll be like, yep, you're under arrest. If you're not Mark, then you might not be under arrest.
One would think that a simple, clarity surrounding the transaction is, look, I'm not paying you for any sexual acts you might perform. I'm paying you to come hang out.
Oh yeah, that's what you would want to do. You don't want to. You don't want to put in.
I would really
acts.
like some of these actions to occur.
Sure. And
and
again, that's been the loophole
way
forever.
around it.
I just don't know how I imagine most people don't take prostitution charges to trial because it's all so very dirty and awful and all these things. Obviously,
most people just want the charges to go away. They'll take a plea.
I imagine there's a lot of married guys that are like, I don't, whatever I got to do here.
Yep.
Keep this as quiet as I can.
Right.
But if you were to sort of take this to trial and fight it, look, nothing happened. I don't know what the problem is here.
Well, the problem would be if you didn't do it the way you said.
In America, I can make a deal, and as long as I haven't followed through with it, I can pick up a gun.
You can't.
I can say I'm going to shoot and kill somebody.
In theory, it'd be nice if you could, but no, Mark, you cannot. The way prostitution laws are written, it is the cutting the deal that is illegal.
Then it needs to go to the Supreme Court. It sounds like a violation of free speech.
I don't want to parallel it to this for too long, but it's also part of the To Catch a Predator TV show.
Yes.
Right? Like no sexual act ever took place.
Mm-hmm. And they
arrested those guys all the time.
Well, often
humiliated them.
Most arrests, people just plea. The vast majority of arrests, people just plea. So you can just arrest people, and 99 out of 100 people will plea out.
And I think that's what Ian's saying in the prostitution. They make the arrest and they take the plea, and no one's challenging it.
But I don't think they would win if they challenged it. I mean, it would be an interesting.
That's what Ian's saying.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be an interesting case, Mark, and I think it would. I'd be fascinated to see somebody do what you're suggesting.
By no means will you find me, taking this to find out.
But as
you don't want to post an ad? Just to see what happens.
Look,
people would be paying me.
I've never gotten into this world myself, but I'm interested in things that are prohibited and why and how, and I've looked at
just about everybody's interested in the notion of people paying each other for sex, that commoditizing this, because in our culture it isn't, and it's so complicated.
Yeah.
That
I'm just telling you, it's the deal that's the cutting, and the reason why they don't come arrest you is because they want you to walk into their trap. They want you to prove that you are the person that you were supposedly online. Because online they just have a claim, right? They just have, well, I want to get this thing from you, and then here's the amount I'm willing to pay for it. They still don't know who you are.
So what if I tell Richie Rich that he's got to go pick up $1,000 for me from a friend's house?
Yeah.
And I send him to the location. Cops jump out and arrest him.
That'd be bad. If he said my name's Mark, then if you had told the undercover that your name's Mark and that you're coming, and then then he shows up and says his name is Mark, they might arrest him. That could be very bad.
What if I told him
could be money
coming up?
laundering?
It's Free Talk Live. You dial toll free. Join us here. Our number is 855-450 free like freedom. 855-450-3733. We do have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. And also, you can join us online over at freetalklive.com. Thanks, by the way, to Paul Ritter, who is a Free Talk Live Gold amplifier. Paul's given $10 a month to the AMP program. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. And the idea is you send, in fact, all we ask for is $5, but he's doing 10. You send $5.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thank you. Send $5 a month in. We take that in and invest it into Free Talk Live so we can get on more radio stations around the country, bring new internet listeners on board as well over at amp.freetalklive.com. You will get perks, benefits for being a Free Talk Live amplifier, like access to the AMP chat rooms on our Discord server and more. Go get all the details at ampamp.freetalklive.com. And yes, you can use PayPal, credit card, or Bitcoin BTC. It's amp.freetalklive.com. As we go to, I pulled up, Mark, just so you know, so that we're not arguing over what these things say. The New Hampshire RSA, which is the statutes here in New Hampshire.
Revised statutes annotated.
Correct. Now, they all have different names in different states, but generally, a lot of these things tend to be pretty boilerplate as far as definitions. So while this is the definition New Hampshire, it may or may not match what's in your state. It likely does, but, it'll
be close.
Your mileage may vary. So a person is guilty of a misdemeanor if the person, A, solicits, agrees to perform, or engages, so they could wait until you stick it in, or engages in sexual contact as defined in RSA whatever, or sexual penetration as defined in RSA whatever, in return for consideration. That's money. Or some sort of thing of value, basically.
You could do it for
a service
copper.
or something, or your rent, or whatever.
Right.
So soliciting, agreeing to perform, they've already got you. It's again or engages in. So they don't have to wait until you actually engage in the act that you've agreed to pay for, or that you've asked to pay for.
All right.
That's it.
I used to work as a valet at a parking structure in Waikiki when I was living back in Hawaii. And, because it was like the tourist district, there were streetwalkers around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my coworkers, at one point asked, he's like, I wonder how much they charge. Like it was a general curiosity, not necessarily that he was trying to solicit one. I was like, dude, you should just find one and ask her, because at some point that's going to be a part of the conversation. And I'm sure they don't shy away from that at all either.
I would be curious to know this information, what pricing is like myself.
Yeah.
But
that's what gets you in trouble.
It's probably what gets you arrested.
Right.
And
that's why these girls on this
knowing
site,
this information isn't gonna change my life in any way. Yeah. So I just kind of remain ignorant. Now, we at one point had a prostitute on the air. We did an interview, and she said that it was about what a professional hour costs in your given district. So if a lawyer charges $300 an hour where you are, or $500 an hour, whatever it is, it's probably going to be commiserate with that.
This girl that they talked about getting busted in the article that we were sharing was $300 for a half hour.
There you go.
That's a high-end district.
It is.
Compared to $30.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts here. Sarah is on the line in New Mexico. Sarah, you are on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Yes. I just want to say that, our city of Albuquerque, they are going to improve our sidewalks to make it safer.
Safer for the prostitutes?
Well, I don't know about it's safer for everybody, children, adults, everybody walking.
You do a lot of walking around Albuquerque, Sarah. Do you see a lot of streetwalkers that are out there on the streets?
No, they treat me like I'm a streetwalker just because I'm walking.
Really?
I mean,
do you get heckled by guys that are driving by in cars?
Catcalled?
Oh yeah, all the time, constantly. It's terrifying,
Wow.
I have to be so. But this is that's the kind of town.
Shouldn't you take it as a compliment? I mean, rather than being terrified by it, shouldn't you take it as a compliment that there are men who they want your attention, they are willing to pay, perhaps for your attention?
It's very annoying, because I'm not interested in that. I'm not in the market, I'm celibate, so they're it's like a harassment.
Would you describe yourself as voluntarily celibate?
Oh, voluntarily, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously.
You have no romantic interest in finding somebody else?
Well, I've done that. I'm 50 years old. I've done that in my past.
I'm 48. I don't feel dead.
Anyways, I'm more concerned about safer street design, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So what are they doing to the sidewalks?
Yes, I know.
She said they're widening them.
They're widening. Oh, okay.
Wider. So you know what? Even though that's why I'm nice to you guys, because I get things done on this show, believe it or not. It might be
Sarah truly believes that by calling Free Talk Live about issues in Albuquerque, that she is solving the problems, that she will make things safer.
Of course I do. Of
That's what she
course I
believes.
do. I brought up that we
It's
from
outreach.
800.
Man, I wish we were as influential as Sarah thinks that we are. We can't even get somebody to tune into our Twitch stream.
I want Sarah to come on as our marketing maven. I'll give her marketing director
Just to call
status.
a bunch of other shows and drop our
Whatever
name.
it is. Just something.
Thanks for the call, Sarah. I appreciate
She
it.
believes in Free Talk Live. Believes in us.
I wonder if they're narrowing the streets in order to widen the sidewalks, or if they're encroaching on local
Oh,
houses.
I already
and
got rid of her.
businesses. I know.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't have a chance to ask that. Just remember for next week.
Okay.
So local authorities say skip the games. This is the news site that is kind of taken Backpage's spot, is taking over the sex trafficking void left with the Backpage shutdown. Remember, they had talked about Backpage, or there were some people in the Justice Department who disagreed with taking the site down because it actually makes it harder for them to find real sex trafficking victims. So what they would do is, some girl gets abducted or runs away and then gets kind of kept by a pimp, or then pimped out against her will. You've got a sex slave situation. This is actual human trafficking. Most prostitutes are not sex slaves. They're professional people who do sex for business. But there are some sex slave victims out there, and so what the sites like Backpage were allowing the police to do was to actually find these people, because they'd put pictures up, right? They put pictures up of the girl. It might be from the neck down or something like that. But if they know that girl X has been abducted and she's got a mole here or wherever it is, they got some sort of identifying thing that if they see the photograph of this person, they can say, that's the person we've been looking for. That's the person who got abducted. Then they can set up that deal with that person and actually rescue a sex trafficking victim. In that case, that's one of the few times I actually support the police investigating, sex for money, when it's a violation of the human who's being trafficked. When it's human trafficking, I think that's okay for the police to be investigating that. But taking down Backpage was actually something that many of these cops, even in the Justice Department, are like, this is a bad idea. It's going to make it harder for us to find actual sex trafficking victims.
Yeah, if you're worried about what two consenting adults are doing in the privacy of some private room, you've got a lot of things. There's a lot of things in your life you should be worried about besides that.
Yeah. It's also interesting that they didn't operate the site like they've done with other.
Oh, the police?
Yeah, because they've taken over sites and operated it for a period of time.
Well, I don't think it would really help them in this particular case, because they're still able to go after people based on just the ads that they post.
Sure, these people they take it all the way down.
Sure. Backpage, let's see here. Last April, Donald Trump signed a pair of laws, the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act and Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act, that added tougher penalties to web services that knowingly assist, facilitate, and support prostitution or sex trafficking.
Donald Trump signed a bill against prostitution?
Yeah, you didn't hear about this? We talked about it last year when it...
because he doesn't need to hire them.
Yeah, yes, he does.
When it was happening.
He was doing that.
Well, he has his other ways of doing it. And this was the law that I had actually referred to earlier, which I could not remember its name. Yeah, FOSTA SESTA was what that's the acronym for it. And that's the thing that drove Backpage and Craigslist. It drove Craigslist to stop having a personal section entirely. As a result, Backpage and its affiliated websites were seized by federal authorities in April of 2018, and the founders of the website and 5 others were indicted on federal charges of facilitating prostitution and using foreign banks to hide revenues. Asked how its website's any different than Backpage, Skip the Games issued a statement saying, quote, like many companies, we unfortunately have to deal with people who misuse our network/facilities to help commit illegal actions or do bad things. We are a small company, and even though we have no staff or facilities in the United States, we interact with and help U.S. law enforcement on a near daily basis. On the website, Skip the Games only provides an email for police to contact them. While the Backpage shutdown initially slowed sex trafficking, Rick Dabrowski, operations manager with nonprofit advocacy group Valley Against Sex Trafficking, said, quote, it has sadly not changed the nature of trafficking.
One of the other things the Backpage shutdown did is it sent the legitimate prostitutes into the regular dating pool, like the online dating sites, because that was the only other place where they could meet the guys. Yeah.
So this guy is saying that it hasn't. Well, surprise. Shutting down Backpage didn't stop sex trafficking.
Surprise, surprise.
How about that? You can't, chop off the branches of the one of the results of the problem. The problem is making prostitution illegal. That's one of the reasons why sex trafficking occurs at the level that it does. There's more coming up here, and you can share your thoughts with us. Hour 2 is next. This is Free Talk Live.
Would you like to hang out with Penn Jillette? He's keynoting Freedom Fest this year. I, for one, am thrilled. Freedom Fest is the largest liberty-oriented gathering in the world. They take a Big Ten approach with libertarians, conservatives, liberals, anarchists, and just open-minded people mingling together to hear real debates, share real solutions, and converse freely. This year's theme is the Wild West, a time of liberty and opportunity, or a time of anarchy and violence. Maybe both. Go to freedomfest.com/FTL and get your tickets now. freedomfest.com/FTL. Not convinced yet? Hey, I understand. It's a high-end event, even with coupon code FTLEB. Sure, you're likely to receive investment advice that'll make that sum seem paltry, but I have something special for you. Go to freedomfest.com/FTL and you'll get the 5 best speeches from last year for free. Call it a test drive. Do yourself a favor and go to freedomfest.com/FTL. freedomfest.com/FTL. Use coupon code FTLEB for a discount.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, launching into the second hour of the program. As always, you're invited to join us here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. It's 855-450-3733. We do have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms. A couple of those are occupied, but there's still a few open. So head over to discord.lrn.fm. Discord's a place where you can actually interact with other Free Talk Live listeners around the clock, basically. There are people in there at all times, it seems like. Various different channels, topics on which you can discuss. And then, of course, during our live shows, there are the on-air call-in line rooms which will allow you to join us here and sound almost like you're sitting in the studio with Ian, Richie, and Mark. As we go to your phone calls and thoughts, we've been discussing prostitution, specifically online websites like the new Skip the Games, which is now taking over where Backpage left off after the federal government cracked down on Backpage. They literally went after the people operating that site and took it down. This one's based outside of the United States. They claim they're against breaking the law and that they're helping U.S. law enforcement on a daily basis. However, the site is clearly based around hooking up people for money. Basically.
That's kind of believable with the 7 busts from one detective in one city.
Exactly. And they kind of, it's from the Lehigh Valley, this particular story. We'll continue with more from it. And let's go to Dana first, though, listening to WTKG in Grand Rapids. Dana, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, guys. Hey, I think it was Mark that read that Trump signed that law.
Sesta Fosta,
the law of unintended consequences. And then you were talking just before that about how police officers or just, law enforcement in general can't, now that they shut down Backpage, they can't track, these perpetrators, especially these traffickers.
Right.
And the thing is it wasn't Trump who initiated that. It was that fourth wave of crazy feminists, and it only takes, the far left is they're relatively small in number, but very vocal.
Well, he still could have vetoed it, though.
Wasn't Backpage was that Mother Jones on the back in Mother Jones, or who was that? Who was that periodical that carried them?
So Backpage was named after the notion that you could find, I don't know, easy sex,
adult services
on back pages of magazines and local magazines.
Usually it was inside the back, like it wasn't the back cover, but it was like the last page.
So I wouldn't be able to say whether
it was a specific periodical, and I thought it was Mother Jones.
No. No, back pages. That's just a generic term for.
No, I understand that. I get that. But my point was there was where I'm going with this is this fourth wave of feminists. There were only a handful of them, but they were there every single day. Even on the Lord's Day, they were out there. They were loud. They had signs. They
out where? In public? In public spaces?
In front of one of those magazines. Like I don't know if it was Rolling Stone or it was a traditionally left, progressive, not Democrat, but progressive magazine that they were in
So
New
hold on.
York.
You're saying they were protesting the magazine? The feminists were protesting?
This went on for a couple of years before they finally shut them down all over.
The feminists shut down the magazine.
Mother Jones is still around.
Not the magazine. They shut down the right for any magazines to put that in their magazine.
No, there's definitely, you can still find these things in weekly publications around the country.
But I would agree with Dana about this, is that they're, in the feminist movement, they have what they call sex-positive feminists, and then I presume that the others are called sex-negative feminists, and the sex-negative feminists really act like they've got a big problem with just about everything.
Right. And that's what I have a problem with, that a small minority, you know how they, the old saying, when in Rome, do like the Romans. It's not like that. It's about individuality, and that's not what this country is about or what it was founded on. It's for the betterment of all of us.
So then you would agree that the individual should have the right to sell sex if that's what they want to do?
Not from a moral standpoint, but pragmatically. See, that's where I'm split on the libertarian vis-a-vis conservative. From a moral standpoint, I don't know about you guys, and I'm not judging anyone, but I'm just trying to get my tail to heaven. So morally, premarital sex is wrong. That being said, from a practical standpoint, I do see the sensibility in what all of you guys, no matter who's guessing or whatever, with you, Mark, and Ian, that if it's a victimless crime, but people say like with drugs, there are victims, because to get the drugs from Mexico to here or from wherever to here, Colombia to here, there's a lot of people killed. There's a lot of this. There's a lot of that. And
No. Transporting drugs from Mexico to the United States doesn't inherently involve victims. Now, certainly
the prohibition of it.
Drug gangs do use violence to protect their territory, but that has to do everything with prohibition and nothing to do with the act of actually moving a truckload full of marijuana or cocaine.
Right.
Well, just like drugs, the worst thing about prostitution is that it's made illegal. And the victims are created through the illegality in many cases. Certainly, there's possibilities of victims without the illegality, and I would go after that. But I agree with Dana on this largely. I don't think that this is a good idea. I wouldn't call it immoral. What I would call it is unwise. You're probably going to get your parts are going to itch if you participate in this activity too much.
Dana, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. Let's go to the Discord on-air call-in line rooms where Johnson is on the line. Johnson, go ahead. Hello?
Hi,
Johnson. You're on the air.
Hey, can you hear me?
Just fine.
So how's Mark been?
All's well, thanks.
What's on your mind tonight, Johnson?
I like the fresh cut, Mark. It looks great.
Thank you.
I know I haven't gotten around to throwing hands with you over at your jiu-jitsu studio, but I was calling to apologize for that action.
What are you apologizing for?
We haven't caught up yet over at the studio.
Apparently you had a date?
Jiu-jitsu.
He stood you up?
I don't know. I mean,
no, jiu-jitsu. We got to fight.
Oh.
Right, you had a date to fight with Mark, and you stood him up.
I don't call it fighting, but all right. We call it rolling.
You don't remember?
Remember
No,
Rumbler.com?
No.
No?
Is that a fighting website?
It was a joke that I think people took out of hand. It was like Fight
Club.
Like Fight Club, where instead of meeting up for a date, you met up with someone to fight.
I love that.
It was called Rumbler.
Johnson, thanks for the call tonight. Toll-free number is 855-450, free as we continue here. Let's go to Goyam. Sure, this will be a good one. In Kentucky, you're on Free Talk Live. Hello there.
Hello, guys.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
What's on your mind?
Yeah, I was going to talk about cryptocurrency, but I noticed that your guys' donation bars went from 500 to 1,200.
Yeah, that's right.
So
we're moving the goalposts.
Yeah, you're buying hormones for Ariana or something? Like
who?
Aria.
Aria. Oh, Aria. Okay, Aria. Yeah. She's actually going to be doing her own Aria Uncensored show coming up on Tuesday night. After Free Talk Live. Yes, I understand it on Twitch.
Late night show.
And she's saying she's going to be topless, so I don't know if that's going to violate the Twitch terms of service or not. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm gonna watch it. That's gonna be fun.
I know, right? Like you're excited, aren't you?
All of a sudden, it's intriguing.
Right.
Thank you, Goyam, for the call tonight. I appreciate it. That'll be 10 o'clock Eastern. I'm debating whether or not, like the last time Aria did a special show, she did one with Christopher Cantwell. It was called She-Male versus Nazi.
Yep.
And, we were worried. She thought she was going to get her channel banned. I thought she was going to get her channel banned because she had Chris Cantwell on, unapologetically, had
Pushing
him on.
the boundaries.
Now, she wasn't agreeing with Chris.
Sure.
I mean, by no means. So it wasn't a promotion, just a flat-out promotion of Chris's viewpoint. But he certainly wasn't
anybody
censored.
who disagrees would likely just say it was.
Yeah, he certainly wasn't censored. And she actually did not get her channel pulled and got a lot of viewers out of that. So I know we've done topless shows here on Free Talk Live, and the Twitch... during the summertime when it gets
it's starting
warm.
to warm up. I'm in short sleeves tonight. So.
But when you look at the Twitch community guidelines about nudity and what kind of clothing is acceptable, it's kind of nebulous. Like, it's not real clear. Like, you could argue that they've banned all nipples, both male and female.
There's nothing wrong with the male nipple.
But there's also another interpretation
Except
as
it
well.
doesn't work.
So I'm considering putting Aria on the LRN Twitch feed and just, seeing what happens with that, because I think that could be interesting.
Don't wreck
We
your
might
own
get
feed.
banned,
Yeah.
but, it can happen. More coming up here in moments. You can join us on Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. You can dial in toll-free, bring up anything you want. Our number is 855-450, free like freedom. It's 855-450-3733. We do have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. And with you in the studio, it's Ian,
Richie Rich,
and Mark.
Don't forget, you can join us online at freetalklive.com. We got a lot of features on our site, including our Twitch stream. You can watch us on Twitch over at twitch.lrn.fm, and it is free to do that. It's in HD quality. Yeah, we got a YouTube channel, but it is not in HD, so if you prefer the highest quality video and audio experience, then that would be over at twitch.lrn.fm. Be sure you hit the follow button. We sure would appreciate that. And if you really want to go the extra mile and help us get more viewers on Twitch, then keep a browser tab open to twitch.lrn.fm on your computer. That way we're always there in case we're live and you happen to be at your computer, and then you will increase our viewer count, and then maybe we'll hit the goal of 75 viewers sustained, basically, on average over an entire month. That's a big goal, and we're about, I think you said 20% of the way
based
there.
Based on what you said we had there.
So, we got a little ways to go. So, twitch.lrn.fm.
Some days are better than others.
Yep, but that's the average right now. So actually tonight we're close to 30. We almost hit 30 tonight. So anyway, thank you for that. Twitch.lrn.fm. We're talking about prostitution and specifically crackdown against people who are using a new site or newish site called Skip the Games. That is the one that seems to have become very prominent in the absence of Backpage.com that was taken down by the federal government in, I think, 2018. This story happens to be from Allentown, and they're talking about how after Backpage went down, arrests also went down. That doesn't mean prostitution went down. It just means that it was harder.
Fines also went down.
It was harder for the police to find people. But now that this site's back on, they're making more arrests, and they're all stinging them from the Skip the Games advertising. In the most recent arrest, the detective found several uncapped needles in the woman's motel room. He wrote in an affidavit, quote, "Unfortunately, these women and even young girls are being forced into doing this," he said. Well,
I'm not sure
that's a separate issue.
I'm not sure that uncapped needles necessarily indicates that somebody's being forced into anything. It could be. I mean, like I've seen the TV shows, the cop TV shows, where women are drugged and made to do things, and they get addicted and stuff. But
a lot of times the women want to do it because they're addicted, and this is a way for them to get the money for drugs that they're looking for. He says, quote, "In all reality, a lot of these women are being forced to do this. These guys are getting a hold of them and pumping them with drugs. They are getting them hooked on heroin, and they are becoming slaves to heroin." Basically suggesting that these women are not their own agents. They are not making decisions for themselves. It's all these men who are, pumping them full of heroin as though, that's just something that happens. As though they didn't want to be shot up with heroin.
So that could happen in more of a sex trafficking situation.
Yeah, that's what sex trafficking is, basically.
Well, sex trafficking doesn't necessarily involve heroin. Sex trafficking is just forcing somebody against their will into a sexual circumstance.
But it makes it easier when you pump them full of drugs because they're not lucid. They don't know what's going on. and they're easier to control.
It wouldn't surprise me if that were somewhat common, but ultimately the sex trafficked victims are frequently controlled by threats.
Okay.
So what'll happen is, it might be they'll be abducted, or they might be a runaway, for instance, as I understand it. And basically, especially if they're an abductee, the trafficker will say, hey, look, if you try to escape, we know where your sister and your mother live.
Sure.
And if you try to escape, we're going to kill them.
Or we're going to put them where you are.
Yeah. And so that's usually enough to keep the person complacent and keep them doing whatever it is that they're being told to do.
Yeah.
Now, if they're already drug addicts, then that helps the trafficker because then they can just provide them with drugs and
I just don't want to
discount
those instances where that is actually the case.
Right. But I don't know how many situations you have a girl who's not a drug addict who they then get hooked on heroin. I don't know how often that.
When we see prostitutions legal around the world, what we find is that largely women who are there, they may have a drug problem, but people have drug problems in all kinds of lines of work. I suspect they, if you need a lot of drugs, then maybe prostitution will be the way to go. But pimps aren't really a problem when prostitution's made legal.
Sure.
And what this guy is doing, this guy who makes his living on stolen money, this this profiteer, basically is attempting to do is to justify his existence by saying
they're victims.
Everybody who participates in illegal prostitution or nearly so is a victim of sex trafficking, because that's what they want to paint this as.
Yeah.
And I would say that this guy is lying to you.
I would agree with that.
He's a big, fat, government paycheck liar.
Yeah, it's not, and you're not just speculating. It's actually what the professionals say. I've been to the hearings at the State House here in New Hampshire. There were a couple of proposed bills over the last few years. There's not one. I don't think there's one this session, but there have been in the past to decriminalize some level of prostitution. Maybe not completely, maybe not legalization, but decrim. And usually they will bring in, the people who support the bill will bring in actual professional sex professionals. Yeah, escorts are just straight up prostitutes from Toronto or wherever, but they come from different places because the ones that work in New Hampshire don't want to be seen. So you got to bring them in from outside. And so these people are usually like representatives of these prostitutes groups or rights groups, and they'll come in and they'll say, look, it's 96, whatever, a very high percentage of the people who are in the sex trade are there voluntarily. They're there because it makes good money. If you aren't a dope addict and you're not heavily dependent on some pimp to find you work.
You could make good money as a dope addict, too. That's why dope addicts do it.
Sure, but they're spending it on their problem. What I'm saying is, if you don't have an addiction and you don't have the ability, you're not just whizzing away all of your money that you're earning, then you can actually make a decent amount of money and sock it away. I mean, some people have put themselves through school doing prostitution and things like that. So the women who are responsible are able to make a lot of money in a relatively short period of time.
I believe that the women who are responsible with their money in prostitution are probably as that's as much of a fib as what this cop's telling.
You don't think there are responsible prostitutes?
I don't.
Not a high
it's not that I don't think that there aren't. It's that I think that they are rare, in the same sense that I say that sex trafficking is probably rare. It doesn't matter to me.
A lot of Americans, work paycheck to paycheck, so I mean, the financial responsibility isn't that common.
Right. I think that most Americans
are more his point.
Yeah, sure. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I've met some of these girls who are pretty intelligent, able to take care of themselves.
I'm not claiming they're not intelligent.
Yeah.
Being intelligent doesn't mean you're good with your money.
True.
Doesn't mean you're responsible.
That's true. The toll-free
Look at you. You're responsible with your money.
Yeah. What's your point?
That's it.
Okay. 855-450-FREE.
Connect the dots.
855. I've also done some prostitution in my time, so.
Oh, dear.
855-450. Very little. 855-450-3733.
It's accurate, though.
You can bring up whatever you want here on Free Talk Live. All right, so that's the story on this website that, again, people are apparently using, and some are getting arrested off of. Skip the games. If you want to comment, if you want to, talk about the world of being a John or being a prostitute and how technology has changed it over the times, you're certainly welcome to weigh in to the discussion. And then, Richie, you've got a kind of a related story.
Sure.
Coming up here about orgasmic meditation.
Yep.
And what that is?
Prostitution.
Well, that's what some are saying.
In disguise.
I have never heard of this before, so we're going to learn about it coming up. 855-450-FREE is our toll-free number.
I am doing meditation all wrong at Quick.
It's too much time in jiu-jitsu.
All right, we got more on the way. It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here.
Did you know you can legally exit the U.S. federal income tax system? Well, it's true, and thousands of American nationals are doing it. The 16th Amendment and the Internal Revenue Code are legal, but only in a limited jurisdiction. This is the basis behind the voluntary nature of the income tax. Learn the exit strategy provided by Congress. Find out more by visiting weissparis.com and watch our numerous videos. That's WEISS Paris.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Like freedom, that's 855-450-3733. We're talking about one of the fundamental freedoms tonight that humans do not have in pretty much every political jurisdiction around the planet. There are a few exceptions, but the freedom of being able to sell sex services to other consenting people. It is called generally prostitution, and police will spend an inordinate amount of time and money, taxpayer dollars, on trying to stop it, which, of course, is a completely futile exercise because it always just changes forms, goes somewhere else. People are constantly looking for these services, and they will find them. As long as there are people in the market demanding them, there are going to be people who are willing to flout the law by providing them to them. And unfortunately, because they're prohibited, it means that the risks that are involved are much higher. There are risks not just for STDs, but also risks of just straight up being robbed and beaten, both to the John and to the girls. So we can continue with the discussion here and some of the ways the market is finding ways around these prohibitions.
As often as possible.
That's what you're going to get into here, Richie. But the toll-free number, if you want to join the discussion here, is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. It's one of those topics that I think deserves to be discussed, and we're one of the few shows that's going to talk about it. Though, that said, we still do have to be cautious on how we talk about the topic because there are certain rules in broadcast in the United States on the FCC that to prohibit explicit sexual conversation. They call it either indecency or obscenity, so we always have to be careful not to cross certain thresholds. But that said, there's a new thing, or it's new to me. I've never heard the term until tonight.
I just found it today as well.
Orgasmic meditation. Is this sex? Is this prostitution? Where's the story from, Richie?
Oh man, Zero Hedge.
All right.
Is this orgasmic meditation business really just a prostitution sex cult in disguise?
Sex cult. All right.
Because you got to throw that word out there, too.
Yeah, it's a fun word. People like it.
Just when you thought professional cuddlers had roped in all the easy money just short of prostitution and strip clubs, along comes one taste.
Now, before you go on, the cuddlers insist they are not engaging in sex acts while cuddling. I don't know if you're familiar with the professional cuddlers.
I am familiar.
Yeah.
There was also a site, I know a friend who used it back home, was like a massage exchange.
Oh,
like,
okay.
You give me a massage and I give you a massage, and I don't know what else
you
happened.
Pay me.
I don't know about payment. I know that was a thing as well, the massage exchange. One taste is controversial business.
Massage exchange, I love it.
Hey, business opportunities abound, Mark.
I do like the idea of exchanging massages, but it just sounds so...
That might have been all it was.
Loaded. It might have been. I can tell you. All right, story time. We used to do massage exchanges in prison.
Oh, really?
Of course we did. Who are you going to get to give you a massage in prison?
Probably not the correction officer.
No, he's not going to do it. So, legitimately, that's what happened. But it's so funny, right?
It's just a massage, though.
It's
right?
just a massage.
What, there was no happy ending.
No.
Okay.
Massages are better with oil. You got to lubricate somehow to really get into the muscle tissue.
Ian's the only
Do they sell
person.
oil at the canteen?
They absolutely have baby oil at the
Do they
canteen.
really?
Yes,
Do they really?
They do. They do.
Wow.
I'm sure things.
All right.
Untoward things happened with it, but they did sell baby oil and
next to the socks.
baby oil.
No condoms, but baby oil.
Of course they didn't have condoms.
Right.
That condoms are for sex.
Right.
It's funny, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it is. Only Ian believes this story. Like everybody else is like, whatever.
Wait, you're saying it's not true?
No, it's true.
Oh, well, then why would someone else not believe that?
Because Ian just believes the things you tell him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's just how he is.
All right. Well,
not always, but a lot of times, yes.
One Taste, the controversial business that focuses on a practice that the company calls orgasmic meditation, OM. On its website, the company describes orgasmic meditation as a unique wellness practice that combines mindfulness with the power of the deeply human, deeply felt experience of orgasm, and which Bloomberg describes as a trademark procedure that typically involves trademarked.
Okay.
So you can't even do this without
licensing
from them. Involves a man using a gloved, lubricated fingertip on a woman for 15 minutes. Or in other words, and despite what it may
says where, but we're not saying where.
For those decency claims.
That.
Yes.
Yeah.
The company is selling sex. Founded, guess where? In San Francisco, of course. The company is trying to take a business out of selling better orgasms to potential customers, and they have the word marks crossed off there as well, focusing mostly on emotional, walled-off women while allowing nerdy men to stimulate women in exchange for a price.
Is unbelievable. Hold on. So women are paying men to perform this service on them?
It seems that way. Because they're the ones with getting the orgasmic gloved meditation.
Right. It's just like, it's shocking to me because, I mean, generally women will are better at sort of taking care of themselves. So these are specifically women who do not want to engage in their own self pleasure, basically.
They might also be more prone to to the meditation aspect of it, right? I don't know. I don't know if that's a stereotype.
They're busy meditating.
It has a feminine aspect to it, I guess.
So they're busy meditating. The idea is they're meditating, so they're like still while this person is operating on them.
I don't know if they're still, but that's the orgasm. The orgasm is part of the meditation process.
True, there are walking meditations, but most meditation is usually still. Anyway, go on with the story.
And they're not just selling videos or brochures, they're selling interactive classes where participants are encouraged to learn by doing. But the company's former members, including 6 of them profiled by Bloomberg, highlight the dark side of what some are calling a cult. Expensive classes preying on emotionally vulnerable people and being shunned by group members after leaving.
Oh, man.
It's the Scientology of the meditation world.
Yeah.
All right.
Former members spoke anonymously for fear of retribution from the company. Some called the company a kind of prostitution ring that would exploit trauma victims and others searching for healing. Some members believed that the company used flirtation and sex to lure in targets that were emotionally vulnerable. It is also accused of having employees be conditioned to work for free and ordering staffers to have sex or orgasmic meditation with each other or customers.
Well, how are you going to get good at it if you don't practice?
Hey, a lot of jobs expect you to learn before you take the job, and then you come to them with the skills already in place.
Yes, they do.
But here you get on-the-job training. That's nice.
Even better.
Yeah.
Right? They put you through the classes. Here's the prices. The company's classes can range from $199 for an introduction to $4,000 for a retreat to $16,000 for an intensive in quotes. The company also started charging $60,000 for an annual membership in 2014. According to the company, about 1,400 people have taken its coaching program, 6,500 have come to an intro class, and more than 14,000 have signed up for online courses and its app. Ooh, wow. That one up. Confused by what the company really does? Here is Bloomberg. The company hosted evening OM circles in Manhattan, sometimes held 30 or more pairs of...
So they're moving out from San Francisco into other big cities. They've got...
I think they definitely have operations in other big cities. 30 or more pairs of strokers and strokees in one room.
Strokers and strokees.
But everyone's in the same room.
Well, it's a meditation class. It's not a private sex session.
So that's a little different than your typical prostitution setup, right? Like if they're trying to say this is prostitution, it certainly doesn't ring like prostitution does. Normally, as I understand it, most people want to hire a prostitute to be alone with them, not be in a room with other people.
Well, I think
with their genitals exposed.
A lot of these fringe industries find ways to skirt the label prostitution.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of what we're getting at here. The fully clothed men concentrating on their moving fingertips, while the women, naked from the waist down. I'm not going to read that.
Hold on. We're going to continue here in moments. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, the One Taste has 8 different locations. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And I've got a story here about a woman who tried it.
There we go.
And wrote a review. So we'll share that coming up, too. You can join us here if you have. Bring up anything. Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. You're invited here to join us. Have you ever done orgasmic meditation? Apparently, it is a new thing in about 8 cities around the world, according to their website. And women apparently are paying. It looks like both men and women. It says in the article at Zero Hedge,
the trademark technique,
that there are men who are performing this. But if you go to the One Touch website, they show their certified, whatever they're calling them, certified finger people, strokers, that they're both men and women, so I suspect you can choose what you would want. But you're sharing a story from Zero Hedge about this, and some are saying this is prostitution.
That's part of the claim. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the other article you brought up will be a little bit more detailed. From the former salesperson, you fluff someone to get them energetic and emotionally hard. You were the dangled bait, like you can have more of this if you buy the $10,000 course.
Oh, this is the critic. This is the former worker who's like,
right.
Okay, gotcha.
So it was definitely to upsell them into the higher tiered levels there. According to the report,
I just don't think there's any orgasm that's worth $10,000.
If you buy the annual subscription, you can have as many as you want for $60. Can you make it worth your time?
That's a lot of money.
No thanks.
According to the report, the company gets around this by teaching its practitioners that money is just an emotional obstacle. Students also
that's accurate.
Yeah. Students also say they were encouraged to take out multiple credit cards to pay for classes. The first time I didn't cover my credit card bill, it broke something in my mind, says Ruwan Mipagala, who went to his first One Taste event in 2012 at age 24. Worked for the company for about 2 years and left owing $30,000 on his credit card. I was no longer afraid of debt, he says. Once you break that barrier, $3,000 is the same as $30,000. At one point, he complained that he and his coworkers hadn't been paid in 2 months. He said it was publicly shamed for having a scarcity mindset.
It's good.
That does sound like the meditation, self-growth, healing culture.
Wow. I mean, it's just hard to imagine being so deep in whatever this thing is. I can see why they're labeling it a cult. If you're getting your employees to pay you, getting your employees to go into debt with you, that's some crazy stuff.
It sure is.
Yeah. The company denies this characterization, calling it outrageous. CEO Joanna Van Vliek said, One Taste is the Whole Foods of sexuality, the organic, good-for-you version. The overarching thing is orgasm is part of wellness. They're also trying to lure businesses as clients, exploiting the Me Too movement as a reason companies should consider their service.
Oh, a company. So the idea would be that the company that
Package
you work
deal.
for would hire these people to come in and relieve the working staff.
Better than a lunch break, I guess, in some cases.
We have entered into a new age, haven't we? A new time. This is
things are changing.
Amazing.
Yep, it's really something.
We're having conversations with companies about hashtag #MeToo and how to teach connection as a preventative health for companies rather than treating the disease of sexual harassment, Van Vleck said.
I mean, some companies will pay for their staff to go to like a ropes course or something like that, right? Like the teamwork kind of thing, trusting each other and all
building,
that.
Leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah, the team's going to be entirely different after everybody comes back from an orgasmic meditation session.
All right, everybody, take your pants off. We're going to sit together in the same room, and these men and women, I guess some of them with gloves, are going to do what they got to do.
But if you got your team members to get the certification, then you wouldn't have to pay for the classes anymore. It could just be an intra-office.
It could be inside the business,
Absolutely.
right?
Can you imagine Clear Channel sales staff running off to an orgasmic meditation retreat?
Actually, I can.
Well, I can't imagine being in the room when they did.
It's a mandatory sales meeting, Mark. Former members have left feeling worse than when they joined. One former member said, looking back on her time with the company, I felt really disgusted that I put myself through that. I felt so much more confused about sex and the boundaries of my body, even though that's what they say it helps you cultivate. That's the end of the article.
So, I have a related story here from womenshealthmag.com, written by Susanna Weiss. Headline, I tried orgasmic meditation with a complete stranger. Here's what it was like. Orgasmic meditation, OM, is a mindfulness practice originating in Buddhist tradition in which a man strokes the upper left quadrant of a woman's, we won't say what, but for 13 minutes while she's lying down in a nest of pillows.
So you get a bonus with One Touch then, because they do it for 15.
This is One Touch. Devotees swear it's improved everything from their intuition to their fine motor skills and gush about how close and connected they feel to their partners. So does that mean their partner at One Touch or their partner back at home?
Probably the partner back at home, because they're opening up their sexuality.
I see. They're breaking down walls is the idea. So when I got the chance to test it out at the One Taste... Oh, wait, was it One Taste or One Touch?
I had One Touch in my article.
Oh, okay, so this is different then. One Taste Orgasmic Meditation Studio, also in San Francisco.
Oh, maybe I read it wrong then.
Well, I had to see if it was worth the hype. Before class started, I introduced myself to the guy next to me. Yeah, maybe it was One Taste.
Oh, yeah, One Taste.
Okay.
Sorry.
And within 5 minutes, our conversation had covered consent, sexual shame, and sex education. This was going to be intense. As the lesson began, all the students in class went around and said why they were there. One woman became teary-eyed as she spoke about her inability to orgasm, and several classmates offered her hugs. One man talked about wanting to overcome his perfectionist tendencies. Another told an emotional story about overcoming his inability to orgasm with a partner. When it was my turn, I said I wanted to become more in touch with my body and my intuition. As a workaholic who struggles with anxiety, I often isolate myself from people, put my drive for achievement above my happiness, and tune out my desires to the point where I can't even tell if I'm hungry or tired. Yeah, so there's that, she says. I was in search of the connection to other people and myself that the OMers, the orgasmic meditators, talk about all the time. Through everyone's honesty and attentive listening, I was already feeling connected to the people in the room. The instructors explained that another thing that OM does is take you from orgasm 1.0 to orgasm 2.0.
This is an option I never even heard of.
Apparently, orgasm 1.0 is goal-oriented and fades afterward, like the ones most of us have experienced. On the other hand, orgasm 2.0 sticks with you and helps you understand your inner needs and feel close to the people around you, which sounds super nice. While we don't have the chance to try OM ourselves in class, the instructors did do a very graphic demonstration. One of them undressed from the waist down and laid on her back with her legs splayed over two pillows, and the other set a stopwatch, put lube on her finger, and then stroked where you might expect. The instructors explained the specific location has the highest concentration of nerves, making it super sensitive.
The ominous G-spot.
Though she says I'm not sure that's a scientific fact. The timer went off after 13 minutes. According to my instructors, that specific amount of time should be enough to relax, let your guard down, and get in to the orgasmic meditation. After which point the instructor took out a towel and pressed it gently against the OMer's spot in order to ground her, i.e. bring her back to reality. I have to try this, I thought. During lunch, I got some unusually candid conversations with my classmates. I guess you could call them that, she says. The instructor sitting next to me observed that I was asking him a lot of questions about him, and I took myself by surprise when I responded, maybe that's because I'm afraid to talk about myself. He spent the next few minutes challenging me to tell him about my life, and someone else came up to me and told me I have great energy. In the afternoon, we delved into the technicalities. So this is like an all-day-long course.
I guess.
So this doesn't, if it's an all-day-long course, it really doesn't have the same feel as a wham-bang, meet at the hotel room prostitution encounter. She says, we delved into the technicalities, like how to ask someone to OMU, orgasmic meditation. You say, would you like to have an orgasmic meditation rather than can I OM you? Since it's a mutual activity. The necessary supplies, lube, a towel, and an optional pair of gloves, how to position yourself, the strokey butterflies her legs out over two pillows, and how to touch down there. One hand lifts up we'll not get into all that detail. Then during the OM, the strokee is supposed to tell the stroker if they want anything to be done differently, and the stroker is supposed to describe the sensations they're feeling. After the time is up, both partners describe the moments that stood out to them during the session. So much talking, she says. The instructors explain that one taste only teaches us to stroke women because there's too much of a societal expectation for women to please men. That means there's no you do me, I do you kind of transaction. I could get behind that, but
I see the value in that. It sounds like it's selling empowerment to some extent, and that's legit as far as I'm concerned. Sure, there's been far too many transactions out there that have been one-sided, male to female. Sure, this sounds fine to me.
She says I could get behind that, but when they told us to forget about climaxing and just follow the orgasm, that they lost me. What the hell does that mean? I sheepishly raised my hand. So orgasm but don't climax? What's the difference? They explained orgasm is any state of involuntary muscular contraction, and women are wired to have expansive orgasms for an extended period of time. Climax, on the other hand, is a male-centered standard that our society has imposed upon women, where you reach the peak and then go back down. But really, women's orgasms should be more like a roller coaster, they say. There's a little bit more here on
Ladies,
this
you're
story.
doing it wrong.
And orgasmic meditation. Have you ever tried this? 855-450 free.
Don't you hate that feeling in the pit of your stomach when the police pull you over? Most people have no idea how to handle it properly, and they promptly get fed into the municipal fee-generating meat grinder. Or maybe you recall that feeling you get when you go to the mailbox and see one or more letters from the IRS. You get a sense of impending doom, don't you? So let me ask you, if you could learn how to use the law to beat the IRS, traffic tickets, almost any courtroom scenario, collectors, credit card debt, and even mortgage debt because of fraud perpetrated against you, would that be worth knowing about? Don't laugh. Investigate. Check out the life-changing benefits of the Lighthouse Law Club at their website, lighthouselaw.club. That's lighthouselaw.club. And while you're at it, visit the Lighthouse Law Club YouTube channel. You might be in for a pleasant surprise.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and we continue with your calls and thoughts. Welcome as we launch into the third hour of this live Sunday edition of the show. Our toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We do have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. With you tonight, it's Ian,
Richie Rich,
and Mark.
We're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts, but if you're just tuning in, we've been kind of talking about sex-related topics tonight, starting out with prostitution crackdowns on a new website that is kind of taken the place of Backpage, which has been shut down. Plus, also, generally, just that led to a conversation about prostitution and the illegality of it, and now further into a discussion about what they call, quote, orgasmic meditation. And whether it involves that, I don't know. But we started with a story from Zero Hedge and got into a personal story written over at womenshealthmag.com by a woman who decided she was going to go try this. And the first part for her involved going to a class where the orgasmic meditation technique was demonstrated in front of the class.
That makes sense. You got to ease into this kind of thing.
Yeah, and there was a lot of discussion about going from orgasm 1.0 to orgasm 2.0, which they explained here, according to Women's Health Mag, is a state of involuntary. They said an orgasm is any state of involuntary muscular contraction, and women are wired to have expansive orgasms for an extended period of time. Climax, on the other hand, is a male-centered standard that our society has imposed upon women, where you reach the peak and then go back down. They say women's orgasm should be more like a roller coaster. The author here says she was a little skeptical of the idea that women have been unknowingly orgasming like dudes all this time, but I could get on board with challenging this wham-bam, thank-you-ma'am approach of getting off. Too many of my hookups, she says, have involved performance pressure for both parties and little communication about what's actually working. was that a surprise? Like, you're together with somebody who you don't know,
right?
And that person's not good at communicating, and you may or may not see them again after this.
Practice makes perfect, people. The first few times probably aren't going to be the best.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just lying there, she says, with no job to do but give my partner honest feedback, and knowing that he welcomed this feedback because it was part of the practice, sounded like a relief. That was easier said than done, however. She says, after class, we all had the chance to mingle, and to my surprise, several students already asked me if I'd like to orgasmic meditate. I was a little nervous about having strangers touch me, but also very turned on by the demonstration. I accepted the invitation of the man who had talked about being unable to orgasm with a partner. So now this is interesting because it sounded, when we were reading the Zero Hedge article before, like you would go into this place and they have these professionals who would, perform this upon you.
That's what that article sounded like. Yes.
Right, but here they're saying that the people who were in the class are just kind of talking to one another and mingling and just inquiring with one another. Hey, would you like to do this? Can I, perform this on you? So it almost sounds like people within the class are interacting with each other.
That may be the difference between like the introductory class sessions versus like the professional tiered, annual membership type of thing.
Because, as she goes on to say, they ended up leaving together to go and do this.
Yeah.
So they just kind of learned the basics and then went off on their own. She says, since my place was pretty far from where the class was and he felt his was too messy, we got creative and used an app that lets you rent out an office for a short period of time. Desperate times, she says.
That seems to be like a uniquely San Francisco thing.
I bet you those exist in more cities around the country. There are these workspaces where you can rent out an office for weeks or months. I imagine they have hourly offices.
I don't know how popular that would be. That seems to be like one of those things that exist within the San Francisco tech culture.
Could be
more popular than any place else.
I think it probably started in San Francisco, but I remember we read this about one of these companies. I forget the name of them, but there's a company that has these types of offices in a lot of different places. And it's just sort of like the world we live in now. I mean, if you've got a company, but you don't need to have offices all the time, except once a month or something when the boss comes from another location, you need a place to meet up. Then you just use one of these. It's a big money saver in that case. So going on here, she says we stopped at Walgreens before heading there and got the towels and lube. As you do, she says. When we arrived to the office,
you do.
When we arrived to the office space, he put some pillows from a couch in the office on the floor, and I took my pants off and lay down on the floor. To ease our nerves, we told each other stories about the first time we both orgasmed with partners. Afterward, the fact that I was naked from the waist down didn't bother me so much. I felt close to him, though I was still very aware we only had the room for an hour and there was a security guard in the hallway, potentially listening in.
And they had just met a few hours earlier.
Right. The emotional intensity of the situation made my body feel heightened. I actually gasped as he put his thumb inside wherever, I'm not going to say. The stroking ranged from pleasurable to uncomfortable. I wasn't used to anyone lifting and touching directly. I'm leaving out certain words. At the same time, there was no pressure to perform, no exaggerated moans, no sexy faces, and no fake orgasms necessary. It was the first sexual interaction where I didn't feel like it was my duty to turn the guy on. But I had trouble letting go of my go for the O mindset. A few minutes in, it started to feel so good that it was difficult to move, make any noise, or even think. And I panicked. Does this mean I'm going to orgasm? He probably wants me to, I thought. Maybe he's wondering why I'm being so quiet. So I started holding my breath and clenching my muscles in the way that usually brings me over the edge, but it just took me out of the moment. After the prescribed amount of time, even though OMing felt great, Orgasm 1.0 and Orgasm 2.0 both remained elusive. Afterward, my OM partner and I took a walk and discussed everything from our sexual fantasies to our body image insecurities. We also talked matter-of-factly about the way my parts were shaped and how he stroked it. Somehow it wasn't awkward at all, she says. Maybe that's because there was
Sounds awkward.
No expectation that we were ever going to date or have sex. It was kind of like two people who hit tennis balls together, giving each other feedback on form. Weeks later, she says, I talked to One Taste founder, Nicole Dadone. She told me that this quieting of the mind is actually the goal of orgasmic meditation, which is why they call it meditation, I presume. Yeah. She says, when we try to climax, we lose what we're really after. She says, apparently, I've got some learning to do. But I'm not beating myself up over it. In fact, that would go against the whole philosophy of One Taste. The teachers emphasize that each OM is about the journey, not the destination. As far as my sex life goes, I'm pretty satisfied with Orgasm 1.0, but in the metaphorical sense, we could all use a bit more Orgasm 2.0 in our lives. So that's the review there from one lady who decided to go.
Doesn't sound all that bad.
And she did it sounded like just the intro class, so she never actually had one of their professionals perform upon her. So kind of interesting. Let's go to...
So they call this prostitution. I tend
it
to
doesn't
think
sound like it.
Yeah, it's not. It's an interesting therapy to me.
Absolutely. Let's go to Vaginitarian, who is on our Discord call-in lines from Virginia. Go ahead.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
This is great. I love this chick going out to try it for a first time, and I like that there's a company like this. I wish it wasn't as creepy as it sounds, this one in San Francisco, because I think it's something that we are definitely missing from society. Like, it's going directly into how sexually repressed Americans are, how ignorant of their own orgasms women are, and just how partners can benefit from something like this across the spectrum, like straight, gay, you name it. People just don't explore this side of their sexual beings to speak so much. So
they're not supposed to have it. I mean, they're repressed.
Yeah,
they're told not to. They're told it's bad. They're told sex is bad,
especially before marriage.
Unless it's with marriage, and then it's totally fine. Do whatever.
Procreation.
Right. I feel like I grew up in a pretty open-minded household, despite being a Catholic household. We're still pretty open-minded, and I feel like my sexual exploration still took a really long time, even with that openness and understanding and everything like that. So I think it's just something that people don't even notice is around in their day-to-day lives. Nobody thinks of something like this. Nobody would ever think to go try it. People would be terrified to try. I'm impressed that this woman decided to go do it and then publish it in a women's magazine, to be honest.
Well, a lot of times these authors will do things that they wouldn't otherwise do for the purpose of getting their story read and that sort of thing.
Or handed to them by the editor. I got a lead for you. I want you to look into this orgasmic meditation thing.
That's a fair point. Ben Greenfield, he did a thing for Men's Health magazine where he tried every single suggested item or pill or what have you in order to increase his stamina. And it was like a 3-month thing.
God, that sounds horrible. All these pills.
Yeah, that sounds...
With who knows what in the...
Yeah, God knows.
Vaginitarian, I don't know if you had more, but good points. If you do want to say, you're welcome to. Otherwise, thank you for that. We got more coming up. Your calls and thoughts are welcome. Our number here, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We are Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. You dial toll-free if you want to join us on the radio. You don't have to talk about prostitution to get on with us. You can bring up anything that you want, although prostitution has sort of been the overarching topic here tonight. Sexuality in general, orgasmic meditation. We just talked about this. Some are saying that's prostitution. I think we all kind of agreed together that it doesn't really...
It doesn't really fit the common definition, in my opinion.
No, I don't think so.
So if you want to comment, you're welcome to do that. Our toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. And coming up in June, just before the official start of the summer, June 13th through the 18th, you can join us over at ForkFest 2019. Free Talk Live will be broadcasting from the event at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. It is a beautiful location to be, but the people are, of course, part of the main reason you want to come out. Hang out with other libertarians and voluntarists, liberty-loving anarchists at ForkFest 2019. It's the third year of the event. It's decentralized, meaning there's nobody who's in charge. You are in charge of your own experience. Do you just want to come camp out, do the camping thing, have a campfire, hang out around hang around, party with people, whatever. You can do that, but if you want to throw a party, if you want to put on a poker game, if you want to put on a play or a musical event or a speaker series, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to create for other people to do, you're welcome to do that. You don't have to ask anybody's permission. So just go to forkfest.party to learn more about the event, and you probably can book your campsite as soon as you get around to it over at Rogers Campground. The link is there on the ForkFest website. So go to forkfest.party. There's also a link to the Telegram chat room and ForkFest forum where you can connect in advance with other people. So like maybe you want some help doing the thing that you want to do. Just put it out there. Say, hey, I've got this idea. I want to do this. Does anybody else want to help out? And you might be surprised at who else shows an interest.
I like that. It's liberty-loving anarchists.
Yes.
To distinguish between.
From the ANCOMs. Forkfest.party. We go to your calls and thoughts. Wikiwea is calling from England on the Discord chat. Wikiwea, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh, hey, yeah. Sorry to break up the...
Are people having a fight in the background? What's going on back there?
It's pretty late for whatever the hell's going on back there.
I'm in a McDonald's, yeah. So
Okay.
I don't know. I can't really hear it because I've got my earphones in.
That's all right.
Go
ahead.
But you screen your calls now then?
No, we've always screened our calls.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah, we don't do a whole lot of screening on Free Talk Live. We're sort of the most basic level of screening you can get. I mean, when you called, I asked you your name, where you were calling from, and what you wanted to talk about. And normally I don't want everybody to explain what they want to talk about. Just usually one word's good enough.
A topic.
So I wrote down pro-death for your topic. Go ahead.
No, I thought you were doing it just because there were more trolls nowadays. But okay,
we've always done that.
Yeah. So, Mark. So the lives of the low IQ liberal fetuses are worth less than the conservative fetuses or the libertarian fetuses.
Well, if they want to commit genocide on themselves, why should I care?
But they're not doing it to themselves. The victim and the perpetrator are two separate individuals.
Yeah, but what I'm saying
We're talking about abortion here, right?
Right. We're talking about abortion, and at some point or another, I just decided I'm going to stop caring about this particular issue. And one of the reasons is that it's not going to affect me in my life. People who use these services are significantly more likely to be poor. They're significantly more likely to be liberal in that sense that they're going to vote for more government programs, more government intervention. They're more likely to have low IQs, and it's just the definition of an unwanted child. Who wants unwanted child means an adult with all kinds of emotional problems. So, yeah, I just decided I'm going to stop caring.
Right. Okay. Well, not caring, I guess, is not exactly the same thing as being pro-death. But to me, because your view right before that was that you were pro-life, and this, to me, it seems like a contradiction. Because the point in being pro-life isn't that they were going to be high IQ babies or something. It was because for the sake of protecting the life.
I will go on record as saying this: that we have problems on this planet that are population based. Not saying that these problems can't be surmounted potentially, and that there's plenty of solutions and stuff like that. I'm just saying that there are problems that are population based, and if we wanted to solve some of these population-based problems, that requires a certain culling of the population, whether it's done through people being sterilized, or whether it's done through abortions as birth control, or whether it's done by just walking them into the culling chamber, as it were. Whatever it might be, those are the things that they're going to do. If you're going to choose to do that, I'm not. I'm just saying, if people are going to look at population-based problems, these are the solutions. Is they're very hard issues to deal with. And, you got to have guts to talk about this stuff. If you're going to get rid of a certain segment of the population, shouldn't it be the low IQ people?
Thanks for the call tonight, Wikiwea. Appreciate hearing from you. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. Let's talk to Tom in Hudson, New Hampshire. Tom, you're on Free Talk Live with Ian, Ritchie, and Mark.
The Secretary of Fatherland Security, Kirstjen Nielsen, is stepping down. She's quitting.
Okay.
Now, one thing about the Department of Fatherland Security, the United States Department of Homeland Security, okay, they include a lot of stuff. By the way, Border Patrol agents and ICE agents are also perfectly free at any time to turn in their badges, correct?
That's true. They could.
They can do that, so it's their fault.
If they wanted to have a conscience, that's what they could do.
Yeah. Now, I just want to take this opportunity to bring up another observation, though. The United States Citizenship and Information and Immigration Service, USCIS. You walk into the local office, and you got to go through the metal detector of security. The United States Department of Homeland Security uses private rent-a-cops for security.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So that's
revealing.
Point there. Yep. I just wanted to bring that up.
I think the suggestion there, let me just add to that, it seems to me like, the unspoken message is we don't trust our own people enough to do this. We don't trust that we know what we're doing as far as security. We need to hire professionals, people in the marketplace to protect our Department of Homeland Security offices.
Well, it's also like the combination locks on the lock rooms and police departments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what have you got?
They work for an outside company, and as employees of an outside company, the state gets to require them to be licensed. By the way, so here you have federal land. If they were federal employees, as far as being licensed to be security guards and licensed to carry firearms and all that stuff, they wouldn't have to be licensed by the state that they're working in. But because they're not federal employees, they're working for a private company, they don't have the federal immunity from state laws like that. So they have to get licenses for all of that stuff to be a licensed gun carrying security guard.
Are you suggesting that it's easier to go after them for malice or
I
bad
don't
behavior?
know, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's saying there. Thanks for the call, Tom, and I want to wait to find out. 855-450-FREE's the number. That's 855-450-3733. You can bring up whatever it is that you want here on Free Talk Live, the live Sunday edition. Whether it's sex, immigration, Department of Homeland Security, you decide here. You can take control of the airwaves. Our number is 855-450-FREE. Also, the on-air call-in lines on our Discord server are open for you as well. Discord.lrn.fm.
Go to themorganreport.com and receive updates and insights you will not find anywhere else on the web. You will discover how to grow and protect your wealth under all market conditions. The Free Morgan Report provides interviews, webinars, question and answer sessions, plus mind-blowing videos. As David Morgan says, let my passion create your wealth. TheMorganReport.com. TheMorganReport.com.
You can dial in toll-free to join us here on Free Talk Live. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We've got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms open and available to you right now over at discord.lrn.fm. Hop on in there and get interactive with other Free Talk Live listeners. Another way you can do that is via our forum at forum.freetalklive.com. That'll take you over there, and you can have more organized discussions as opposed to the Discord, which is more of a real-time chat. So check that out at forum.freetalklive.com. Let's continue with your calls and thoughts. You can bring up what you want. David is in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, David.
Hey, gives a whole new meaning to I want your business. Let me have your business.
So I was...
Yeah, please. I've been doing. It's kind of funny after you've been doing this for however long it's been. The ads that played while I was on hold had a whole new meaning, and I wrote a few of them down. Without privacy, there really is no security. Learn the exit strategy. American nationals are doing it. Watch our online webinars and mind-blowing videos.
Those are mind-blowing. That's funny.
Let my passion create your wealth.
Right.
And let's not forget the news that plays on hold for those of us. Spread liberty. Who is she? Spread liberty with a smile.
That's what she's calling it now.
I abhor that. I abhor that disgusting smell every time I walk. Well, that's the Onion. I abhor that disgusting smell every time I walk by.
So you're referring to some of the things that some radio listeners might be able to hear, but others may only be hearing if they're on the hold
Pretty much
feed.
LRN.FM would be a way to hear it all.
Anyway, go ahead, David. Was that what you were calling about tonight? Was to riff on our commercials?
It's funny.
It is cute.
Well, I'm not. No, you hijacked what I wanted to talk about because you gave me too many new ideas, so I'm going with that. And the Onion had one more. It had some guy, radio-friendly phraseology, touching himself to Phoebe Cates, downloading one pixel at a time.
Yeah.
But I was doing it all wrong. All these years I was just doing straight out massage. I was marketing myself wrong. I should have been marketing myself in a way that what could I make 60,000 per year? 6,000.
That was the annual. More than that, if you service more than one customer, because that was the customer rate for an annual membership.
Of the one, what was it?
Wow. One taste.
Taste. That's right. That's what it was in San Francisco, in New York. And apparently
but,
Texas.
Being serious for a second, the guys, you should be, well, I guess it doesn't matter what sex you are. If you give your partners good massages, I don't mean fake massages that leads in 2 minutes to something else. I mean real massages. It's basically what ends up being what you're talking about in your. Yeah, so try it. It works.
Good advice, David. Thank you for the call tonight. I appreciate it. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. What if your partner's a robot?
Oh, no.
You don't have to give them a massage.
That's true. And there's a story here from ZDNet, which is one of the tech websites out there. Robot love, why romance with machines is a foregone conclusion. And this is something that on occasion we've been talking about on Free Talk Live, is the level of robotic involvement in people's workplaces. Certainly we've seen robots taking over ordering. Mark, you and I were at a McDonald's, I think, within the last year, where we got to try the little screen thing you can punch in your order on. And
I just seen a video of how to get a free burger using that machine.
Really?
Yeah. Some Australian dudes did it. Like they ordered 10 burgers and then went to the customization part and removed the meat. And so you order 10 burgers, it's like $1 per burger, but they credit you $1.10 for removing the patty. So then they're in the negative, and then they order the 11th burger, and the total comes out free. Then they get a bag of it, like 10 empty burgers and 1 good burger for nothing.
You got to love people who figure out how to work the system.
Well, it reminded me of what were they called? Griefers or something? The people that did the freakers, the phones?
Phone
back
freaks?
Oh, yeah.
Phones back in the day where they would get free phone calls and, and that
they
sort
hold
of thing.
up speakers to the phone and play tones and get, like, basically it's
free long
tricks
distance.
Tricks the phone into thinking someone put a quarter in, basically. So
I mean, if you create a system,
you can't do that anymore, kids, by the way, just so you know.
I don't know that you could find a payphone, kids.
Every now and then you can find them.
Right? Don't
They're
touch
like
it.
50 cents a minute.
Don't touch it. It's dirty.
Yeah.
But you make a system and you leave it to the smart folks on the internet, and they're going to figure out some way to exploit that system.
They sure are. So one of the big robotic stories of 2018, at least in the mainstream press, was the arrival of multiple sex robots on the market. Most of these take a female form. Anthropomorphic fantasies like Cynthia Amatis' Samantha and Realbotics' Harmony, which have raised eyebrows and prompted international coverage, spurred in no small part by boisterous founders and burgeoning rivalries.
Putting the prostitutes out of business.
Well, that's a question here. And will it put girlfriends and boyfriends out of business? Robot brothels, meanwhile, have popped up in Toronto and Paris, and another was barred from doing business in Houston. We reported on that one last year. Pontificators have pontificated about whether this is a good thing or a sign of society on the skids, and how much of this criticism has, rightly, in my opinion, writes the author at ZDNet, focused on how these robots represent women, both in appearance and as passive objects of desire. Almost like clockwork, male robots with bionic penises are now on the way. This was inevitable, of course. The sex tech industry is worth $30 billion, and sex has long been a driver of technological innovation. From King Edward VII's kinky sex chair, didn't know that was a thing, and network-connected sex toys with serious security flaws, to these new forms of participatory virtual reality pornography.
That's one area that intrigues me. The long-distance sex toys.
Yeah, they have those. And they've had them for a while.
The current sex chair.
The current spate of let us know what you find there, Mark. The current spate of sex robots are just that: devices for fantasy fulfillment and physical pleasure. And the technology, frankly, isn't that much more compelling than non-robotic sex dolls. But a day is no doubt coming when a robot will leap across the uncanny valley and pass muster as a thinking and thoughtful companion. We often use words like love and obsessed to describe our connection with gadgets. But from a human standpoint, is it even possible to love a machine in the same way that we can love another person? A body of literature on the subject is emerging from the fields of behavioral science and human-robot interaction. A book by David Levy called Love and Sex with Robots deeply and convincingly explores the subject. In 2015, Elizabeth Phillips, Ph.D., at the Department of Behavioral Sciences and Leadership in the Warfighter Effectiveness Research Center at the U.S. Air Force Academy, that's a mouthful, gave a talk on robot intimacy at Orlando Nerd Night and the Smithsonian's Future is Here Festival in D.C. that drew in part on Levy's book and remains the smartest, concise exploration of the subject I've heard. Professor Phillips argues there will be an inevitable leap to love and sex with robots, but to understand why, we have to understand how humans form relationships with people and how they fall in love.
I almost want to call it a mental deficiency.
The idea of being with a robot?
Falling in love with a robot.
How about love?
Maybe, but I've seen too many like one-off articles of the people that love their love the grass and the earth, they want to have sex with the earth.
I've seen a few of these, yeah.
I really fell in love with my car, and
Looney Tunes.
It seems Looney Tunes, but that's why I'm saying I want to say falling in love with another, a robot would fall into that sort of category.
But if love is a chemical reaction in the brain, right?
Sure.
And you put 8 billion of the most successful primates on the planet here, there's bound to be some percentage of them that have some kind of, wrong chemical reaction at the wrong time and fall in love with the banister at their house.
Got it.
But in this case, we're not talking about, Rosie the maid robot from the Jetsons. We're talking about a robot that will be convincingly human-like. That's what we're discussing here. Not, not some bucket of bolts, but something that is, at first glance, and maybe even after several questions of conversation, passably human.
Okay.
That's what they're talking about. One that could actually, in theory, replace a human.
Still not a human, though.
This is the realm of attachment theory, first conceived to describe the relationship with infants and one primary caregiver. The theory holds that there's an evolutionary advantage for human infants to attach to a caregiver early in life for comfort and security. Notably, attachment does not have to be reciprocal, though it can be. So we'll talk a little bit more about the reasons people fall in love and what that has to do with robots in the future here. And, mix this in with a conversation about prostitution. And this, the whole sex relationship for humans is on the cusp of some major changes here.
Absolutely.
Maybe for the worse, maybe for the better. I don't know. Free Talk Live. Moments remain. Enough time here. If you want to comment on robot love, is this, it may not be a thing for most people yet, but is it on the horizon for the very somewhat near future? With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Richie Rich,
and Mark.
ZDNet's author, his name is Greg Nichols. For their robotics section, says it's a foregone conclusion, in fact. And he's talking about the attachment theory. He says it.
Don't you think there's a certain plethora of breathless anticipation on the internet of robot ladies?
What do you mean?
I think that
people are waiting for this.
That people really that there's a lot of
nerdy,
animosity.
Geeky guys who have trouble getting women are probably looking forward to this more than the job.
And that's going to drive some development, right? There's going to be money behind this.
Development and sales, I would assume.
Right.
Yeah, and I just think that there's, on Free Talk Live, we talk about this all the time. And why?
Not all the time.
Why this topic and not other topics?
We've talked about several topics tonight.
I know. I'm saying, look, there's lots of topics that Free Talk Live never broaches. We never talk about how to make a good souffle.
True. That's true.
Right. But we have multiple times.
Not everyone wants to make a souffle, but almost everybody wants to have a loving relationship with another human being, unless they're a psychopath.
But not
or
a
not
robot.
A human being.
Not a robot, and I would guess, just guessing here, that the people who are most anticipatory towards this, that 10% of the population that is most interested in this is almost exclusively male. Like 80-20, 90-10.
Yeah, whether they want to have a male robot or a female robot is the other question. But I'm
just curious as to why that is. Like, what's the reason for that? Why do we talk about this so much? What's interesting about this topic? And I'm not saying it's not interesting, Ian. I'm asking you, why is it interesting?
Well, I think that robots generally are interesting. So, the idea of robots replacing humans, we've discussed it.
They will.
In the case of recently, there was another story about a robotic coffee-making station that could essentially replace 3 to 4 baristas.
Yep, just flying through those cups of cappuccino.
Right. So we're seeing all these things. And so we've talked about a lot of the robotic advances that have been happening over the years. Since we were talking about sex, I've had this one sitting in my show prep for a few weeks. Figured it was a good time for it.
I think the stereotype that it's all male is also there. Like, I don't disagree with you, Mark. But based on the last articles that we have read about the orgasmic meditation, there's definitely a population of unsatisfied females,
women. Absolutely.
that may be in the market for this sort of thing as well.
And the robot will not have a stamina issue.
Absolutely.
Not at all. The theory extends to adult relationships, which is borne out by the observation that infants who don't attach to a caregiver early have a difficult time forming interpersonal relationships. We've seen this, right, where parents who don't hug their kids, for instance, their kids kind of get messed up as a result of that. But that doesn't fully explain the mechanisms of love, the how and the why people actually fall in love with another person. That subject is the realm of a large body of social psychology research, and the general consensus is there are 10 primary reasons people fall in love. And Dr. Phillips points out this is often represented as 10 plus 1, since all of the reasons we fall in love are predicated on physical proximity to another person. The 10 reasons include things like similarity, exclusiveness, filling needs, and arousal. And then they give a list of them on a different article. The question Phillips proposes is, can robots fill the 10 plus 1 reasons for humans? There's a preponderance of reasons to believe the answer is resoundingly yes.
Yeah, I can't see why they couldn't. People ultimately, they're easy to fool. Sure.
First, there are certain times in life when attachment to people moves to attachment to items. These so-called security attachments will be familiar to parents. My kid has 2 blankets that he takes everywhere, says the author. But security attachments go beyond the Linus syndrome and extend into adulthood. Computers in particular are excellent at serving as attachment figures. They're portable, accessible, aid our exploration of the world, and offer comfort in the form of connections.
Are people actually falling in love with Siri?
I don't know, but there's a movie about that.
The movie Her.
Have you seen it?
I've seen it.
It was pretty entertaining.
I'm just wondering.
Siri doesn't have a real, thing.
Corporeal.
It's not corporeal.
Shape.
Sure. So don't buy it. Consider your smartphone. Now consider a day without your smartphone after it's been lost.
That's not love.
Many people would feel. They're not saying it is.
Dependence.
That's what they're talking about. Attachment, Mark. Okay. Many people would feel naked, vulnerable, oddly isolated. In a word, lonely. Now consider robots.
Lonely, yes.
Phillips points out that robots are already serving comforting roles. The category of home robotics still hasn't extended far beyond robot vacuum cleaners, but in settings like hospitals and senior care facilities, there's significant experimentation around companion bots that can brighten days and lift spirits while performing basic care needs. There's also the increasing realness of robots to consider. Phillips points out we may be coming out of the uncanny valley as robotics designers make increasingly lifelike robots that feel less creepy than human simulacrums of just a couple of years ago. That means robots are becoming increasingly convincing as they pass for human.
I think it was in Japan. They had Sony produced a robot companion dog that was very popular there. And then
that was years ago.
Well, but in the last few years, I think they discontinued service for it and upset a lot of the customers because then it's like, now you can't repair your service, your robot
dies?
Right. Then it's like losing a real pet. So there's definitely an odd attachment there as well.
Right. Already. Couple that with the fact that people are already demonstrating a preference for artificial relationships. Phillips cites a Japanese craze among the otaku subculture of playing dating video games, in which players establish relationships with computer characters.
What is an otaku subculture?
You'll have to look that one up. It sounds weird, but given what we know about it, but I have heard of these games, Mark. They're called dating simulations. It sounds weird, but given what we know about attachment theory, it's not that different from the Tamagotchi craze that's more familiar to people in the United States.
Wasn't that a little plastic pet
it was a little egg.
It was the late 1990s, a little egg with a black and white screen on it, and you had to feed the thing, keep it alive.
Japanese derogatory term for people with obsessive interests.
Social acceptability is one of the reasons people fall in love. And there, too, there's a good case robot affection is in the offing. In the U.S., polling suggests that changing views of sexuality and greater permissiveness of sexual relationships that fall outside of a narrow heterosexual norm. When talking about relationships with robots, reactions are often reflexive and negative, but there's good reason to suspect that's going to change. The missing piece of all of this...
They're reflexive and negative? Everything I've ever heard about relationships with robots is like, yeah.
Well, now, you pushed back earlier on it tonight. You're like, why are we talking about this?
No. I'm asking why people are so interested, because I think they are.
Right. But so your reaction isn't negative, you're saying?
Not particularly.
Okay.
I mean, I think I
think a lot of people are going to be like, "Pah, robots," and that's a normal reaction.
There should be a biological imperative to propagate the species.
There is
some form.
There will be a certain level of looking down on your neighbor.
Certainly.
Once you find out they're in a relationship with a robot,
guaranteed,
as opposed to a human being.
Certainly would. Yeah.
Like,
I will be the neighbor looking down.
Right. You couldn't get yourself a real woman, right? And then they're going to be like, yeah, well, mine's boobs won't droop after 20 years. Or
mine doesn't complain about cleaning.
Right, or whatever.
The missing piece of all this is emotional intelligence. Some sense there's an understanding other out there who gets us and reciprocates our feelings. The big question is whether we'll ever accept that robots, which we know to be artificial, can offer that comfort. But we're not as demanding or filial as strict notions of reality as we might want to think. Phillips points out that when researchers ask people who visit brothels why they go and what they get out of it, one oft-cited reason is a sense of reciprocated connection from another person. It's not that the people going to brothels believe intellectually that the sex worker they're visiting is infatuated with them. It's that it doesn't really matter, so long as the fantasy is plausibly maintained. We have emotional buttons, and even in a transparent transactional scenario, they're easily pushed. Because again, they're faking it at the brothel, right? That's what you're paying them to do, purportedly.
Even when you watch adult videos, you make stuff up in your head.
Computers, of course, are becoming much more emotionally intelligent and have adopted all kinds of strategies to push our emotional buttons. Home assistants are able to respond to us with quirks of simulated personality, like the, what do they call them, the Alexas, those things?
Oh, yeah.
Home assistants, says, even make us chuckle with unexpected jokes or insights. More sophisticated machines like Sophia, you've seen that like the top half woman-looking robot thing that's sort of been touring around for the last couple of years.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Look her up. Have caused a stir for giving lifelike live performances that seem to exhibit improvisation and personality. Taken together, all of this points to a clear conclusion. We may be much closer to seeing human-robot affection than we realize. The number here I'm not going to give out because we're done for tonight, but I think this is an interesting topic that we're going to see more of, especially as robots become more intelligent and more able to interact convincingly as though they were humans. That's going to change a lot of human interaction, especially when it comes to relationships. I know, it's easy to poo-poo now, but just wait. We'll see.
We'll see.
See you tomorrow night online. In the meantime, check out more of Richie over at The Anarchist Experience?
AnarchistExperience.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealestate.com